Good evening. Stephanie, again, thank you for the introduction. Thank you all for joining us. We are absolutely thrilled to be here this evening, which is a part of our 29-town tour stop. This is tour stop number 15, town number 21. So I can tell you that it has been an exhilarating experience. We've appreciated the time and the feedback and all of the participation that our residents and our citizens and our partners and our stakeholders have shared with us over the course of these last 7 or 8 months that we've been doing this. So as I said, that this is an opportunity for us to engage with you. But before we get started, there's a couple of things that for housekeeping I'd like to do. We are going to get started by showing you a brief video that perhaps provides some additional context, and then we'll get right into our discussion. Thank you.
So, you want to leave a legacy?
Why not send me to college?
Help me be a better provider.
Or help support local programs.
At the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, through your generosity, we make both big and small dreams come true. This isn't just a donation, this is an investment. Through our careful financial stewardship, your money will last forever, helping numerous nonprofit organizations in the 29-town Greater Hartford area, changing countless lives along the way. It's a tradition that goes back to 1925. The Hartford Foundation for Public Giving is one of the oldest and largest community foundations in the country. We help donors impact the issues they care about, such as education, health, the arts, economic and community development, early childhood, and more. This is your community, and it's our community too. More than 90 years of experience means we understand the big picture, how different issues connect, and what will be needed in the future. The Hartford Foundation is invested in the vibrancy of every town in Greater Hartford. We award grants, share knowledge and data, influence public policy, host events, and build partnerships. But most importantly, we help people like you make a difference. Whether you want to establish a scholarship, join a giving circle, or start your own donor-advised fund, we are here to help. We'll make sure you reach your philanthropic goals, whatever they may be. The gift you give today will make an impact now and for years to come. It's about making Greater Hartford a better place, and you can make a difference. We promise.
So, what will your legacy be?
The Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, together for good. So there was a line in the video that referred to the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving as one of the oldest and largest community foundations in the entire country, and that is indeed the case. One of the oldest and largest in the country, the largest in the state of Connecticut. And it was also stated that we are invested in the vibrancy of every one of the 29 communities, each and every one of them. So while we are a regional community foundation and we promote the interests of the region, we are also the community foundation for each and every one of those 29 communities, obviously including West Hartford. That's why we're here. Last year at our annual event that celebrates our donors and our stakeholders and our partners, we made a commitment that we were going to reintroduce ourselves to each and every one of our communities in a very intimate and intentional way. And the best way to understand, while we've been around for 93 years and there's been a lot of information and a lot of work done, we don't take for granted and assume that we still, at every given time, have our fingers on the pulse of what's going on in each of our communities. And there's no better way to do that than to come and have a conversation with those communities, and perhaps less a conversation and more of a listening tour. And that's why we're here this evening, to come and to hear, to glean from the stakeholders and the residents, and to ask them to just consider a couple of simple questions. How can we be a more impactful and valuable partner to you all here in West Hartford? What are some of the frustrations that you have as a town, as a community? What are some of the aspirations you have? And how can we perhaps be a partner in helping to overcome those frustrations to the extent possible, to achieving those aspirations, to being inspiring philanthropy and all sorts of things that are important to the well-being of each and every one of our communities. And I can tell you that now 21 of these communications and listening sessions in, the response has been overwhelming. And we didn't come, and the response hasn't always been, oh, you guys are doing a great job, we love you, you're just, we've got some of that, and we appreciate that. But we've also heard where we've come short. We've also heard where we perhaps were well-intended, but ultimately missed the mark. We've heard of some of the challenges and some of the things that, the difficulties that individuals have. We've heard that sometimes the perception or the brand of the Hartford Foundation as we intended or as we might perceive it doesn't always correlate with what the communities hear or see or perceive. And that's important for us to hear that. All of this information is helping to formulate our strategic plan. And this is not a one and done conversation. So this isn't, we have a conversation, we listen, we check a box, pat ourselves on the back and move on. This is a part of an ongoing relationship that will be cultivated, that will be enriched by what you provide us. We're excited at the end of this year, we're going to you're all invited, and there's an invitation also on your table, to our annual celebration of giving, Greater Together, where you will hear and see how the input that you've given us has helped to shape our strategic plan, and we're excited about announcing hopefully some exciting things that would really be reflective of the recommitment that we're making to our work in each and every one of these communities. So that's what I want to open up with. And as I said, this is a listening tour. And this doesn't work if I'm up here giving a monologue. So that means that all the chatter and the discussion that was going on just a few minutes ago, we're going to take that energy, hopefully, and direct it to, again, just beginning to talk to us about how we can be a better partner, how we can be more impactful, how we can help overcome frustrations and help towns achieve the things that they aspire to do. So remember, if you would stand up, wait for the microphone. We will have one of the staff members bring the microphone and share your questions or your comments. This is all being, again, captured and recorded and will be used to help better inform our work. So I've always said, and I'll say it here, that this, when I walked in, this was a lively group. So we anticipate that there will be lots of questions and comments. And if not, I will help get started off by the first person that makes eye contact with me. So you either volunteer to offer something or look away, so we can do it the hard way or we can do it the easy way. It's up to you guys. But we really appreciate the time that you're spending with us and sharing with us to help us be a better community foundation for the well-being and benefit of you. And of course, none of this is possible without our donors, a number of whom are in this room and many, many others over the course of the 93 plus years that we've been in existence. So I'm going to take a sip of water, and then you all, let's get started. Yes, thank you.
I just want to warn you, I'm dangerous with a microphone.
It's all right.
I'm going to start off. My name is Helga Gordon, and I've lived in West Hartford since 1991. I was blessed to have become a first-time homeowner and buy a condo on Hillcrest Avenue through the Christian Activities Council. However, I feel that the neighborhood that I live in is not part of West Hartford. And not to embarrass anybody, but our zip code wasn't included on those little discs here, 06110. So I'm going to...
That's my zip code too, 06110?
Yeah, it's not out there.
Okay. So I'm with you on this.
Oops, okay. So I would like to know how we can become a part of Hartford. Because when I tell people where I live, and I'll say, I live in West Hartford, and they'll say, well, where? And I'll, Elmwood. And, oh, you live by CVS and, Tapas, going towards the mall. Nope, go the other way. Oh, Puritan? Nope, keep going. And I go, I'm on the other side of the railroad tracks. And they just look dumbfounded because they have no idea that there's a very, very wonderful, diverse neighborhood over there. If you ever get a chance to ride through there when those kids are getting on that school bus, those are the kids that are going to make America great again. They have Muslims, they have Africans, they have West Indians, Puerto Ricans, Polish people, black people, white people. It is just amazing. And I see all these kids waiting for the bus. And they're all happy, they're all getting along, the little kids love each other, they're holding hands, they're hugging each other, but we are kind of lost back there. And I never feel like we're part of West Hartford. And it bothers me that when I tell people where I live, I almost have to give them a map. So I'm wondering how we can be included and be known, and how we can be part of the community that we live in, because I'm telling you, it is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in West Hartford. I live at 163 Hillcrest Avenue, if you ever want to stop by, But for the next 2 weeks, I'll be on vacation, so wait till October 1. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And that's a wonderful way to start off, because it puts the question on all of us. And this is something that we've heard in some of our other discussions. How do we celebrate the diversity of our communities? This is a small state, and one of the things I learned early on is it's a state of 169 towns, and they said, Jay, don't forget that number, 169 towns. Each of them wonderfully created and offering various quality of life and amenities that make them special, each of them also having unique sets of challenges. But yet and still, this is a state that, within a couple of hours, you can drive tip to tip. Within just a handful of minutes, you can cross the lines of multiple communities. And too often, and it's not just unique to Connecticut, that we do define ourselves by our zip codes. We define ourselves by the demographics of our neighborhood, when in reality, we exist as a region. We will rise or fall as a region. So that being said, that's why, we want to have this conversation. Are there areas that we as a community foundation of each of the 29 communities, of each of the towns, and of each and every neighborhood and zip code of those towns, are there things that as the town wrestles with that and decides that they do want to lift up and embrace the diversity and celebrate those things, that we can be a partner in doing that? So I'll put a pin in that and really connect that to a longer, larger conversation that we've been having with each and every one of these towns, and some of the things that we hope to be able to announce in November that may really cut to the heart of exactly what you've demonstrated. So, but thank you for sharing that, and look forward to talking about some specific things that the town might be interested in doing to help lift that up. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Courtney Borns. A number of years ago, I was involved in an organization in Hartford that was bringing people from the suburbs in to get involved working with Hartford's children. And I feel the children of the region are the future of tomorrow. I live in West Hartford, and I think we have a great school system. I've watched Hartford's school system, in my perception, limp along for the last 30 years. How can we, to pick up on your theme of better together, how can if Hartford is the hub of our region, and if Hartford is healthy, we're healthy. If Hartford's children are getting a good education, we all benefit from that. I know you're committed to education at the foundation. Are there ways that we might talk about, if you haven't already, to see us all trying to come around the table together to ensure that all children, including Hartford's children, are getting the kind of quality education that we're getting here in West Hartford and other suburbs?
Thank you. We have made and continue to make a significant investment in education in the region, in Hartford, in many of the alliance districts, which is a state designation of districts that are having some specific challenges. And as we've done that, we want to also be able to pull in, as a part of that conversation, those school districts that have seen some success, and talk about how, and I love how you phrased it, because no one is, as a former mayor of a city like Hartford that had some of the same challenges and struggles, there was often a push and pull about the issues of the central city versus the region. And I would say that, no one was able to argue successfully to me how a stronger central city was bad for the surrounding areas. They said, well, that's a Youngstown problem, a Hartford problem. It's not a Youngstown or Hartford problem. There may be manifestations and a concentration of those challenges, but they aren't confined to the borders of Hartford. So to the extent that we see ourselves as a regional foundation, to the extent that our investment in education has been focused and concentrated in those most challenged of districts, I think that anything that we can do to serve as a convener of a conversation between those districts that are achieving some success and those districts that perhaps are aspiring to achieve success, things that we might be able to do in terms of leveraging our investments to that end. So, because in this country, school is such a hyper-local issue, it does make it challenging because in terms of how we finance school, in terms of how the curriculum goes, and it's easy to sort of say, well, hey, our students are doing great and we got to focus on that and we wish those other students well. So I think to the extent that I don't, our investment provides some opportunities for that. So what I would do is invite you and others who are interested in that to sit with us and perhaps talk about and share some of those ideas. I don't want to put him on the spot, but Terry Schmidt, who was sitting at your table, he and I, a couple of months ago, had breakfast and started talking about this. How can, the foundation serve to help facilitate the relationship between these school districts that in and of itself, we understand the challenges, but that can ultimately help perhaps produce some innovative or effective ways so that all children are given an opportunity for a quality education. And I'll end by saying one of the things that President Obama often said was that, talent is equally distributed, no matter your zip code, no matter your socioeconomic background, but opportunity is not. So how do we ensure that those students who may not be in a school district like West Hartford still have an opportunity to have a quality education and ultimately, as you talked about, are the ones that we need to invest in for the success and well-being, not only of our communities, but ultimately the country. So I would really invite you and hope that you and others would come and sit with us and talk to some of our educational leaders about ideas and thoughts of how we might facilitate that. Thank you. Right, a green shirt.
Hi, my name is Art Feltman. I'm a 10-year resident of West Hartford and a grantee of the Hartford Foundation, as well as a donor to the Hartford Foundation. And I want to pick up on something that the first speaker spoke about, which is about isolation of certain minority groups or neighborhoods in the town of West Hartford. The group I would like to talk about, and there's actually some geographic overlap between the neighborhood the woman referred to, are immigrants. And in West Hartford, 17% of the population are immigrants, and that's 30% more than the region, and it's 25% more than the state. So we have a large concentration of immigrants in West Hartford, but really very little services are given to them. There is some effort in the school system and adult education as well as children's education. The library does a good job, but beyond education, when it comes to financial literacy, when it comes to vocations, when it comes to a whole range of needs that newcomers have, that strangers to this country have, I don't feel that this town really takes the lead as it should, given this large proportion of our population. And so I'm looking to you as a regional leader to see if you could start a conversation because Hartford's already doing this, and why are suburbs like West Hartford not following that lead?
Well, we would be happy to expand upon the conversation that is already underway. I can tell you that we are involved in a coalition of community foundations and other philanthropic organizations that are investing in and trying to facilitate and lift up issues, as you've talked about, specific to immigrants. So again, any community that is willing or interested in having that conversation, we do think that we are in a position to, I don't want to say set the table because those conversations are already ongoing, but expand the table. I can tell you, and it's interesting, having only been here a year, my mother got involved in Leadership Greater Hartford Third Age Initiative, and one of a number of the activities they have brought on was that there was a dinner in West Hartford a couple of months ago at one of the churches, and they were focusing on some of the individuals who were relocating from Syria. So just to hear that story and to see a group of individuals, from all over but concentrated in West Hartford, really take that issue up was fascinating to me. And then to get firsthand to see my mother, who has only been here a year, get involved and with that level of activity. So we are part of that immigration coalition. We would welcome any community that is interested in seeing that work and talking about how we can expand that work. We also are involved in advocacy around issues that are consistent with that. So thank you for raising it, and happy to talk to you about what we're doing and hear your thoughts about what else can be done to expand that table. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Carol Waxman, the Children's Services Librarian for the West Hartford Public Libraries, and I'd like to address the children in the 06110 neighborhood, those wonderful, beautiful, happy, incredible children. This past summer, with generous Hartford Foundation funding, we created a Faxon Fun experience in the Faxon Branch Library, which is in the Elmwood neighborhood. A free experience for children to come to the library 3 hours a day for 6 weeks, ages kindergarten through 9th grade, separate days on those ages sometimes, and have the most incredible experience to play games and do art, make crafts, go outside and run like crazy, have races, learn to play board games together in a fair way and not run away when they lose. How to be friends, how to be nice to each other. An incredible experience for all. In order to make sure that we got the children who needed a great free experience, we had social workers go into the 06110 neighborhood to determine if any of those families needed a wonderful experience for their children in the summer. And they did, and we got those children to come to us. So they are not forgotten, and they are important to everybody. And we know that 06110 is there. I've lived in West Hartford since 1959, the first 10 years of my life in the wonderful city of Hartford, attending Rawson School, which still is vibrant today. So we are there for you. We know you're there. If you need something in terms of libraries, please tell us. We want to do more. And with the Hartford Foundation, we hope we can in the future.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And part of what we've seen in benefiting, one of the benefits is an awareness. We've had individuals stand up in a meeting and express an issue of concern, and 30 seconds later, someone else would stand up and be able to make those connections. So part of this is lifting up that awareness. So thank you for sharing. And I'm both in my professional capacity, glad you shared, and in my personal capacity, because I'm a 2-minute walk from the Faxon Library. In fact, this morning, as I was running around, I passed it. So to know that there are programs like that for the diversity of young people, kids, children, in that area of this wonderful community is something that is, certainly needs to be made known. And to the extent that we can continue to support that, we certainly appreciate the work and the effort that you all put into it. Yes. Well, we still need to capture you on film.
I need one. My name is Leslyn Clark, and I have lived in West Hartford for 20 years. I have a son that is in college now, but he went through the public school system here in West Hartford, and I serve on the board for the Foundation for West Hartford Public Schools, which is an amazing resource for this town and for the education of all the children in this town. And so the teachers and administrators for all the schools in the West Hartford school system are able to apply for grants to supplement and close that gap where the budget is not able to kind of do those extra things for our children. So I just wanted to mention that we're here, we're part of the community. We would love a conversation with the foundation.
Certainly.
So.
Thank you.
That's it.
You got the mic.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say something. My name is Benita Keys. I'm from the town of Bloomfield, right just across the border. And I've done a lot. I know a lot about clinical work. I worked in the federal system for 21 years and did a support court. But this whole idea, now that I'm retired, of starting something is daunting. I just, like, even now, I'm like, how do they pursue these things? So someone that has a great knowledge and feels like they can contribute, but how to get into the game through the foundation is my question. And so I'll
You mean
stop.
like to start a nonprofit or an organization?
Well, even I believe I have some resources in that arena, but just how to go about and start the conversation, to pursue it, and just feel supported in that effort.
So I have 3 letters for you, NSP. Our nonprofit support program is some staff within the foundation who focus on capacity building, who focus on small startup nonprofits or individuals who are interested in starting nonprofits. We connect them with consultants who can help with fund development or board development or some of the technical issues that are associated with starting a nonprofit, and it is a nationally recognized program, and it's something that we've been providing for a number of years and put on seminars throughout the course of the year that are free to the participants, bring in some of the finest thought leaders on issues that are facing small nonprofits, and the idea is to build them up in terms of their capacity so they can focus on being impactful. So, you know, the startup, as you used the word, can be daunting. Just the thought of where do you even begin. So I would welcome you and invite you to reach out to us, and we'll connect you with some of the wonderful staff at our nonprofit support NSP program, and then from there, open up a whole world of resources that we hope you would find of value. Certainly. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Bob Coonan. I'm involved with 2 organizations that you've supported for many years. And those 2 organizations are Oak Hill and HARC. And I've been involved with them for 47 years.
Thank you.
One of the things that we need some help for, I think these days, is supported employment for individuals with disabilities. I think we've lost the ability sometimes to think out of the box and to be creative. And that creativity is something that we really need these days. But I thank you for your support. I know there are an awful lot of people that are in less than adequate jobs and that are sitting in day activity centers that should be out in the community doing something. I also believe that we have an awful lot of opportunity in the state office buildings around the state of Connecticut, where we have very, very few individuals with disabilities employed. So I think there's a lot of ability to be creative and to help a lot of people that could use an awful lot of help. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work with both HARC and Oak Hill. And about a month or so ago, or maybe it was a little bit longer than that, I had a chance to tour HARC with the executive director and and one of the board members. And part of that discussion did focus on the jobs and the employment opportunities for the clients of HARC. I have not had a chance to engage or tour Oak Hill yet, but thank you for your focusing on that and raising that. And I'm excited. You know, HARC is, as both of those institutions face significant challenges in terms of the funding streams from the state and from the other areas that they receive funding. But it was clear to me that there was a significant focus on that area of finding very viable opportunities for those individuals to be gainfully employed, that is good in terms of just their personal dignity, that is also good in terms of the places where they're employed. And from some of the stories that I heard just in my brief visit there was how it was mutually beneficial, not only for the resident or the client of HARC, but for the entities that were employing them, because it just, you know, it takes away a perception or misperceptions sometimes that we have of individuals who face those challenges. So thank you for that work, and I'm looking forward to also hopefully being able to tour Oak Hill and get an understanding of how, you know, their approach and some of the things that we're focusing on, you know, might work together. Thank you. Yes, sir.
You know, my name is Dave Mangs. I've been in West Hartford for a third of a century now. 3 kids, went through the schools here, and you know, I love this community very much. I'm also the past president of the West Hartford Rotary and immediate past district governor. And one of the things that happened as I was traveling and visiting our 59 clubs in the 4 counties of Western Mass and northern 4 counties of northwestern Connecticut was people would come up to me frequently with tears in their eyes, and they said, "What is Rotary doing about the addiction crisis?" If I had to ask in this room, how many people know someone, have a friend or a family member that was impacted by the addiction? If you could just raise your hand. You know, what we're finding is that we've put together a task force. We're linking up with, you know, the Lions Club as well, and working very closely with law enforcement, educational, and others to bring about a coalition that can actually address this issue in 3 areas, and would love to see a partnership here with the Hartford Foundation. The first one being awareness of what that problem actually is. Number 2, we're working on access to services so that these people are not alone and they know how to get help. And number 3 is to reduce the stigma so that, you know, those that are suffering with these issues are actually here. We're very proud of a vocational training team we've just completed with South Africa, dealing with babies who are born with addiction, both to alcohol fetal syndrome and whose mothers have addiction issues, and would like to see a much closer partnership with the Hartford Foundation in a lot of these areas. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that. That is an area that is of interest to a number of our donors, so much so that we had a donor briefing this past summer and brought in 2 speakers, and really it's ironic they zeroed in on a number of those issues: awareness, access, and exactly, and reducing that stigma, and shared stories that were, you know, exceptionally compelling about the things that this region faces, and that's a perfect example that this opiate crisis is not in the, you know, the corners of Hartford or some places that people. This is something that is impacting the entirety of the region. You know, from Glastonbury to Enfield to there isn't a community that escapes the impact of that. So, you know, to the extent that that is something that continues to be of an issue of importance to us. Like I said, we've got a lot of donors that were animated by that and resulted in us putting together that briefing. You know, we find ourselves being able to respond to that in a way, hopefully, that we'll see some progress. So thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. My name is Brianne Greenfield, and I'm the new director of the Harriet Beecher Stowe Center. And I wanted to say thanks because the foundation supported the process, the transition process that brought me to the Stowe Center. So that's a first thanks. And I want to underscore that and thank you also for the support and the capacity building work that you do with the area nonprofits, which I think is tremendously important to our strength and going forward. And also just a quick plug to any of you who are interested in youth or family programs. Remember that we are just across the border in Hartford, and we have some incredible programs that inspire young people to action, that engage them in civic leadership. So we are available for that as well.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dennis Carruthers. I live in West Hartford. I'm a retired educator, so I share the passion and concern for young people and children that's been expressed here. But I'm here to talk about another segment of our population. As a volunteer, I'm president of a small nonprofit located here in the West Hartford Town Hall called the Seniors Job Bank. And we help men and women over 50 years old, at the other end of that continuum, find part-time and temporary work. Because there are a lot of individuals who are retired or semi-retired. They still want to use their skills and their knowledge. And we, if people in their homes need somebody, a handyman, a gardener, somebody to help around the house, or a small business needs a part-time person, a medical office, the town, churches, we link people who are looking for work with those people who need help. And particularly want to thank the foundation. I didn't realize the extent of the foundation until I got involved with the Seniors Job Bank, but your staff, Doug Schickman and others, are terrific and very supportive. And the support for our small nonprofit has been terrific because we don't charge people for our services. And so we rely on donations and grants, and the Hartford Foundation, the Donor Advisory Fund, and the small nonprofit support is terrific. And it's not just to help individuals find work and feel better and earn some money, but by giving them those jobs, we feel we're contributing to the economic benefit of West Hartford and the surrounding towns. So just like to thank you for that and encourage that support for small nonprofits, particularly who are supporting older individuals and also the communities, because as you know, the competition for funding, there are so many good causes. Charities and arts groups and schools and churches, that the competition for funding is very intense. So your support and your openness to the applications for grants, I think really contributes to the vitality of this community that everyone benefits from. So thank you very much.
I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. Yes, ma'am. When you said Senior Jobs Bank, I'm thinking I'll be 47 in a couple of weeks, so technically I'll be eligible in 3 years. So maybe not Senior Jobs Bank, just second phase of your career Jobs Bank.
You know, when people think of seniors, it's not, you know, sort of people falling down and so forth.
Right, right. And I've got an 8-year-old son, so I'm going to need to work for a while to pay for college, so I may have to take you up on that. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Karen Backman. I've lived in this community for 30 years, and I'm here tonight with another board member from the West Hartford Women's Chorale, which actually started as a kind of a grassroots musical organization. And the reason I'm standing up, I was waiting for a segue because cultural organizations really can't hold a candle to some of the things that your nonprofits are doing in the world and in the town and in the region. But we too contribute to vibrant communities. 15 years ago, when I helped found the chorale, we found that we were providing a place where women could come in a non-auditioned atmosphere, learn how to sing or bring their singing skills. And initially, they just felt good. And then we started doing things for the community. We started raising some money. In fact, we contribute to one of your donor-advised funds every year because it supports children in learning music in the West Hartford Public Schools, Gifts of Music. And then we founded a scholarship. It's not huge yet, but that's because we don't get very much money from any other organization except the people who come to see our concerts. And so far our concerts have been, we don't sell tickets. We ask you for a donation. We ask you right now for $10. Because from the beginning, our value was to make this kind of arts accessible to anyone who wanted to participate, and to make it available to the community, and to show the community that singing is both a healthy adventure and a lifelong thing that you can do in your life. To that end, we've had student musicians, we've participated in student events, we've participated in in community events like Celebrate West Hartford. We go to the Athenaeum and we donate a performance there. So we found ourselves, though, becoming a regional organization. So our women come from everywhere in the region, majority from West Hartford. I kind of think if I had been in Hartford for 30 years, if my future had kind of landed me there, then maybe our organization would be more diverse. Because one of the issues we're finding in looking at possible grant opportunities is that our board is not that diverse, because we ask a lot of our board members. They contribute, they're working members. We have no staff except for our music director and our accompanist. So we are providing this very rich resource to the community and not receiving much support except from the people who come to hear us. And it is good to hear from people that I've met here tonight that you've either come to a concert or several concerts, or you know about us, or you saw us on the bandstand at Celebrate. But like most cultural organizations, we too are expensive to run. And the more we do, the more expensive it becomes. We started with 14 women. We now have over 90 women participating as singers in our chorale. And what we sort of found is you build it and they will come. The other thing that we've sort of, what do they call that, a sort of secondary gain that's happened for our community is we have a very mixed group. We have seniors, probably a quarter to a third of our organization are retired women. We also have young women, professionals. When I think about the problem Hartford has with attracting young professionals to stay here, we're doing our bit. We're providing a recreational and performance opportunity for young professionals to enjoy their life here. We also found that we have another little niche which has sort of grown over time. There are a number of people who come to our community because their husbands are studying here or because they get transferred here from another location. Some of them haven't spoken English, but they know how to sing in English or Latin or French or the other languages we sing. And so there's a small community of women who get anchored here as citizens of this community because they found a place to belong. So I guess I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that we've had a little difficulty figuring out how we could apply for some of the grants that might be available to us because our board doesn't reflect the diversity of the Hartford region. I would think that as you go around, you may hear that from some other nonprofits in the hinterlands. We're very close to Hartford.
Right.
We would love to be more diverse, but there are many reasons why we're not in that sense.
Sure.
So anyway, hello, and thanks for giving me the floor for a few minutes.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. First of all, let me say that, you know, when you said that perhaps, and I know you meant it tongue-in-cheek, but, you know, arts and culture organizations are essential to the well-being and the vibrancy of the community, without question. Yes, we need those organizations focusing on homelessness and opiate addiction and domestic violence, and those absolutely deserve support, but it doesn't at all diminish the importance of arts and culture to add to a vibrancy. And when those individuals, after they get through those difficult portions of their life, you know, to be able to then also have a community where they can embrace and benefit from the arts and culture that make us all holistic human beings. So to that extent, the foundation has had and continues to have a long history and continues to see that as an essential part of our activity and in our investment. To the issue of the board diversity, you're right. We have heard that, and we have a board diversity policy, and very proud of that board diversity policy, and believe very strongly that there's a richness that comes out of having a diverse board, and diversity comes in a variety of ways. But also recognizing that there are some communities that is a challenge. So for those communities that it seems insurmountable, and there's been a demonstrated consistent, persistent, good faith effort, we sit and have a conversation with them about how we can still perhaps partner in ways that are consistent with our beliefs and consistent with what they are trying to do for the community. For those organizations that are a part of diverse communities but still struggle with a diverse board, we invite you to have a conversation, because we don't think it's just enough for us to say, well, here's our board diversity policy, good luck, and to go figure that out. We're saying, here's the board diversity policy, here's why we think it's important, but we're willing to have a conversation with you. And as I talked about our NSP program, I'm not sure if this is one of the components that we offer, but if it isn't, it will be, I guess, because of President, I can say it will be coming up. Oh, it is. Okay, so it is one of the things we offer in terms of how to, oh, see, I thought I was going to come with some groundbreaking new thing, and my staff, as always, is ahead of me. Is like, yeah, Jay, we do that. But to invite you to have a conversation with us about how to diversify a board. And you know, I don't think we've ever come across an organization that said, no, we're just not interested. What we come across organizations that, well, it's difficult. We've tried this, we've tried that. So, you know, we'd invite you, please have a conversation with us about that. And then to perhaps it opens up even other opportunities for funding and support for those organizations such as yours that really add to the rich tapestry of our community. So thank you for sharing. I saw a hand. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Darlene Boray, and I have a teenager with autism in the public school system. Every parent with a child with autism thinks the exact same thing every night they go to bed, which is, what is going to happen to my child after I'm gone? Same thought for all of us. But what we do is we plan, and we try our best to figure it out, and there's two areas that we really think about a lot, and one is housing. And so I'm concerned about affordable housing and housing that's set aside for people with disabilities as West Hartford grows or creates new housing, apartments, setting aside a portion for people with disabilities. And then as to what you were saying from Hark on employment opportunities and getting creative, I've been working with the local high schools and setting up a club where kids with disabilities and without disabilities work together to create micro businesses for the people with disabilities. And the goal is to work and refine and publicize and really be invested as a community in these micro businesses during the high school years where there's an actual community. And then when they graduate, the businesses will follow them. And the goal is to someday work with a college where it could go on to there. So we have a place to go at age 21 to work together on the businesses, separate businesses, but together. So I just want to raise those issues.
Well, thank you for raising both. And I'll tell you, when I said early on at the beginning that what we're hearing here is helping to inform and shape our strategic plan, just within the past 4 or 5 days, one of the teams within the foundation, as we were talking about those areas that are really rising up in our strategic plan, affordable housing is one of those issues. And we sort of wrestled with, that's a big issue, and we're trying to figure out where we can zero in on where there is a lack or where some of those disparities are. So I think that is even helping us to expand the conversation, not just affordable housing, but affordable housing that is accessible to those who are facing all sorts of challenges. So thank you for that. And to the extent, one of the other issues and topics is our role in economic development. And that's also a big area, and we have the Metro Hartford Alliance and other economic development organizations. So it's not that we're looking to be an economic development organization per se, but we do think that there are opportunities for us to leverage some of our resources, and specifically economic development at that granular grassroots level. So thank you for sharing both of those. I saw you pointing, Nancy. I'm like, but she's not, okay.
My name is Margaret Hann. I'm the Executive Director of The Bridge in West Hartford, and I'm here this evening with Deborah Zipkin, who's the Director of our Family Resource Center at Charter Oak Academy. I've been Executive Director for a little over 20 years, and during that time, the Hartford Foundation has given us almost $2 million of support, and for that, I want to say thank you. We would not be where we are today without your support. That has come in the form of infrastructure development that's helped us be a better business and survive some very difficult economic times. We have worked a lot with Richard and with our Family Resource Center to develop programs for young children and their parents. We have 3 mental health clinics, 6 residential programs. We're the town of West Hartford's Youth Service Bureau. Last year, we served over 9,000 children and families in our many programs. We have about 170 staff. One thing I've learned over the 31 years that I've been with the Bridge is build it and they will come. We open up a mental health clinic. We are soon at capacity. We have waiting lists. What I've discovered over the years is that the issues that our families and children face are becoming more and more profound. We're living in an environment where some pretty deplorable behavior is becoming more and more acceptable. That is very alarming for us. Our families frequently live in fear of deportation, of what will happen to them because they're different. That is something our Family Resource Center deals with on a very frequent basis. I would like to say that the Hartford Foundation has enabled us to continue to be nimble And that means when we see a need, we can respond to it quickly and fill those gaps. As we move forward, we need more mental health services that reach out into the community, more hands-on work in the schools, which we do a lot of. Moving forward, that's what we need more of, definitely. And thank you.
Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for sharing. Mr. Devon, I'll come to you, Terry.
I'm Booker Devon, lived here about 30 years now, I guess. I've been involved with organizations that have been recipients of Hartford Foundation grants. The Noah Webster House, which is the West Hartford Historical Society. When my wife and I retired first, and one of the things, I looked around to see what I'd like to do in retirement. One of them was to give more time to the Harriet Beecher Stowe Center, which I did, and also the Noah Webster House. And the other thing was that I was introduced to the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving and volunteered to serve on the scholarship program. And both my wife and I go around to schools, both in Hartford and in West Hartford, and interview scholarship candidates. And I can say that it's been a really rewarding experience to meet the young people who have devoted themselves to doing a good job in school, and now they're ready to go to college. And the scholarship that you folks provide really makes it possible for some of them to actually go to college. For those students have been thinking about this for some time, and this is just a wonderful culmination. I should add that I'm a retired community college president, so I've been involved with education for a long time. But one of the things I was exposed to was the idea that if you wanted to start a scholarship fund, you don't have to be rich, that your staff explained that you can make this down payment and make payments on a yearly basis, and eventually you can have your own scholarship fund. So we've been happy to do that. And it's because of the involvement of seeing just how appreciative the families and the young people are for the opportunity to go to college. So I've enjoyed being involved with the foundation and attending the annual scholarship presentation each year that your staff puts on. And it's just a wonderful experience, very rewarding, and I'm just glad to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Devon. We aim to be an exceptionally accessible foundation, and inspire philanthropy in all shapes and forms and sizes. So thank you for sharing that. And our scholarship, is a very important part of what we do, and have been being challenged by our board to even make it more robust and to serve even more students across all 29 of our towns. Terry?
Jay, I'm Terry Schmidt, as you know. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Council for Interreligious Understanding, and I'm also currently doing an interim executive directorship at the Friendship Service Center in New Britain. And I could say all sorts of accolades, which I feel, but I want to press you a little bit instead. Sure. I've done quite a number of interim executive directorships in our region, and I don't think I've hit one yet that I haven't tripped across this particular problem, which is that your organization has boundaries. And those boundaries mean that you can support activities in one town, but you just go a few miles down the road and you're not allowed to support that. What I guess I'm pressing you on, what I'd like to press you on is, could you help explain that to me? Or could you also maybe talk about how Hartford Foundation is finding ways to work cooperatively? As I'm going to pick the point, sure. As you challenge governments in these 169 towns to learn how to work together, right. Are there ways that Hartford Foundation is working so that organizations like mine, which extend don't know your boundaries, how can work with those?
Certainly, that's a great question. So first of all, let me say that we absolutely, while we're a regional foundation, we see that there are any number of instances that are of statewide interest. And to that end, we have done it historically, and we have even redoubled our efforts to collaborate with other philanthropic organizations across the state. Very specifically, we meet regularly and collaborate regularly with the Community Foundation of Greater New Haven, with the Eastern Community Foundation, with Fairfield County. In fact, I was just down in Fairfield County a couple of weeks ago having lunch with Juanita James. So the entire state of Connecticut, I think I'm accurate in saying, is covered by community foundations in some way, shape, or form. Connecticut is unique, and it's a small state with 8 or 10 community foundations versus a Rhode Island or New Hampshire, small states with one community foundation that covers the entire state. I don't have at my top of my head the history of how that's evolved, but we ended up as where we are. We didn't start with 29 communities. We grew into 29 communities over the course of many, many years. So it is odd because there are some communities, if you look at a map, there are some communities that just would be a natural, logical fit, New Britain being one of them, but are covered by other community and or family foundations. So we have not, though, allowed that to preclude us from reaching out, from collaborating, and not just with community foundations, with family foundations and with corporate foundations. I will give a shout out to the Connecticut Council on Philanthropy, which is a convening entity that brings all of us together on a regular basis. So yes, although there are geographic boundaries by which our declaration, our charter sort of describes over the course of the years, we don't see that as an impediment to collaborating, reaching out, and have actually demonstrated that through some of our investments over this past year and even prior to that. So it is a challenge, and there's this, we are also sensitive to the fact of being the largest community foundation in the state. We don't want to sort of be seen as, well, we're just the biggest, so therefore everyone should come under our umbrella. But we do think that there are any number of issues that are of beyond our region that are legitimate, and we have an appropriate role to collaborate with other organizations. Thank you for raising that. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you very much for being here and listening. My name's Amy Yarbrough, and I've lived in West Hartford for 14 years now. And I have the great pleasure to be working with many of the people in this room, working with families and children in West Hartford. And you have supported many of the programs that I've had the opportunity to work with and benefit from as a parent in this community. With the schools and the Open Choice Program, with the Bridge and the Family Resource Center, and also the library here. We're doing wonderful things in West Hartford, and we have room to do more. So that's kind of a plug. I also wanted to say that I haven't heard anybody mention yet, we mentioned it a little bit with immigration, but we have so many languages spoken in this community. And I think one of the pieces is figuring out how to do more in terms of making what we have available to our families accessible through just some of the language opportunities that there may be out there. And the other piece is transportation. Transportation is a huge challenge. And for many of our families to participate in some of the programs, they need transportation. When they're trying to bring kids from one place to another, there may be other cultural challenges that they're facing, maybe not feel safe at times, walking from one place to another. These are just areas that we need to look at, we need to talk about, and figure out how to support that. Another piece I'd like to just add, as a parent in this community, I have 2 teenagers in high school now and a child who's in college. And one of my teenagers will talk to me and really tell me what some of the challenges are that her peers are dealing with. And I think Margaret had mentioned this too. our kids have a lot of things that they are struggling with around identity and just peer pressure and all of those kinds of things. And I just think we need to continue to keep that in our forefront and figure out how to support them even better than we already are.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Right up front. Right.
So I'm Debbie Kleinman, and I have lived in Greater Hartford, never West Hartford, for the past 25 years. I'm now a resident of Hartford, one of those few who left the suburbs and moved to Hartford, and have been actively involved in many nonprofits for the past 25 years. And want to give you an observation, which we have talked about a little bit one-on-one and in other events that I have seen you at. But I want to thank you, because in the past year, I've seen a real change in the thinking of the foundation. For many years, and I was on both ends of being involved with organizations that were recipients of foundation funds and struggled to get foundation funds. And it's good to see the foundation starting to think outside the box. I think there were real walls and real structure that was built up over the years. And I think one person mentioned diversity on the boards, budgets. Right now, one of the organizations that I'm actively involved in has a budget that has been higher than what the nonprofit support program would normally work with, but we're just evolving from bankruptcy. So it's an organization that greatly needs the support to get our feet back on the ground. So my comment to you is really thank you. Thank you for beginning to look outside of the box and to begin to recognize that not everything fits into a plan, and to give your staff empowerment to begin to think outside the box, because I think that's really important in terms of all of us in the growth of our organizations, to understand that each organization is different and won't necessarily fit into those tight parameters. So thank you, and I look forward to more conversation.
Thank you for sharing. And as we draw to a close, that's a good segue to thanking each and every one of you. This is an evolving organization, an organization that understands that we need to be nimble, we need to be dynamic, we need to be more proximate to the challenges, and it doesn't take anything away from the history or our previous activities, but it just is more of a recognition of where our communities are and where we need to be. Not just responsive, which we will continue to be, but proactive. And I'll use this opportunity, I hope I don't get in trouble, but this doesn't happen without a supportive board. And David Roth, is one of our board members, is here, and certainly wants to acknowledge him. And he and his colleagues on the board are challenging us. And I want to acknowledge the staff, without whom none of this would be possible. To your point, empowering and unleashing that creativity so that they feel that they can exercise their expertise and they can take the foundation in directions that are reflective of the needs of the community. We will always be a good steward, a trusted steward of the resources that we have, and we're never going to be reckless, but we do have to take more risk and be more nimble, and for that, we are eternally grateful. So one final thing I'll point out, because I'm up here in the middle, is another Elmwood resident and my neighbor, and his name escapes me, but he is one of the most distinguished and dapper dressers, and I watch him almost every morning go out to his car and get in, and I right. So I watch him. If I'm doing good, I'm out running. I'll be like panting, covered in sweat, and I'll see him. He's just always cool, calm, and collected. So another Elmwood resident and neighbor. But thank you all for sharing this time. We don't take for granted. You've got busy days, work and family and volunteers and all sorts of obligations, and you took the time to come out and spend time with us to share your thoughts, your observations, your input that, again, is not just for us to say, okay, we heard it and we move on, but it's to help inform and shape our work, our strategic plan, our investments. And you will hear and see this continually reflected in the organization. Again, I remind you, on November 15th, we're having our annual celebration, and you are all invited, and we'll begin to see how this is being incorporated as we move forward throughout as we move to the end of this year and move forward into our next year. So thank you all for coming out. We certainly appreciate it, and have a lovely rest of your evening.